Folks, one of the joys of competing in the expert division at championship Scrabble events is the absolutely insane strength of opposition. More than half my games at the 2025 North American Championship were against 2,000 rated players, including 4 games against 3-time major champion Jackson Smylie. Today, we're going to take a look at our round 14 game, which was easily the best of the 4 we played. Jackson goes first, and with the W and Z in hand, he can play Wizen for 42, but wisely chooses its anagram of wins to avoid slotting vowels in useful spots. With the clunky BFP combination on my rack, I'd like to shed those tiles and settle on the standard fob for 21 to do so. Jackson draws 3 A's and plays off 2 of them with ah for a decent score of 17 points, and I have decent looking tiles without a playable bingo. I can go a lot of different ways here, such as P for 19 points, keeping very strong bingo tiles, or apps for 35, burning my valuable S. Instead, I split the difference with Neep for 27. This scores well and keeps my S at the cost of spending both of my E's and leaving 2 vowels to just 1 consonant. Jackson plays Rev for 22, which sets up his leftover A nicely, while I draw very well to my AIS leave and have Scenarii available here for 79 points. However, rather than play it here, I sacrifice 2 points to play it in this spot instead. I'm responding to Jackson's previous 2 short plays, which suggest he might be likelier than usual to have an S, so I'm blocking the best remaining S hooks on this board. Jackson answers with Dawin for 35, proactively opening space on the left side of the board, but I draw another 7-letter bingo immediately in Donnert for 73. Jackson draws clunky letters after Dawin, but the X allows him to play Vax for 46, while I get a welcome sight in the form of the first blank. However, the 3 I's and the J to go with it force me to play Ahi for 20 and try to dodge more I's as I look to hit a bingo quickly. Meanwhile, Jackson's tiles go from bad to worse with 3 U's, and while exchanging tiles is clearly on his radar, he makes a savvy choice of Vug for 14, setting up the H remaining on his rack. Depending on what he draws, he might hit a high-scoring play immediately, or he can use an H hooking play to open up more space at the top of the board. Unfortunately for me, I do draw another I, and while I'm not loving opening the board further with a lead, at least I have the blank in hand to justify it. So I play my top option of tie-in for 21. Jackson cashes in his hook with Chum for 33, but I draw very nicely after tie-in and play my top scoring bingo of Airside for 76, putting me up by over 100. Jackson's tiles are still ugly, and perhaps with that on his mind, he plays Ugly for 28 to try to stay within range. Next, I have Goliath on my rack, but it doesn't play anywhere in this game. Just as with tie-in, while I'd like to try and block the board here, my runaway best play is Hoagie for 35, scoring very well with the Haji's hook and giving me decent chances of drawing a knockout bingo next turn. Next, Jackson makes a fantastic play of Oft for 23. This move creates a surprisingly dangerous threat in row 14, allowing for words ending not only in suffixes like ERS, but also EST forming EFT, a suffix that he retains on his rack. Clearly, I will need to address this new threat. Unfortunately, I also have a new issue in the form of the Q, which isn't all that easy to play here. The play of Millet jumps out to me quickly, scoring 36 points, but it leaves the Q for next turn without great prospects for it to improve, and it opens a triple lane back to Jackson, which I consider to be a big risk. So I play Chi for 23 now while I can, which also feels like it might block at least a few of the big possible plays on row 14. However, I quickly regret my choice as Jackson draws the second blank and plays Tardies for 87. This isn't the highest scoring play in this spot, as other choices like Redax would score 91, but placing an R in this spot would allow me to hook to the triple with Ert, whereas placing the T with Tardies creates a situation where only the S can hook onto the triple word score beneath. This is a fantastic decision by Jackson, given that he likely needs to draw the valuable S's anyway in this game to continue his comeback. I don't have one of the two remaining S's, and if Jackson does, leaving the bottom of the board open could be devastating. That being said, I have no great way to block it while also scoring a decent number of points. Computer analysis suggests that I should play something like Lot or Motley here to at least block some of Jackson's bingo potential on this board while also drawing 5 tiles to try and snag one of the S's, but I can't bear to leave the spot open, so I decide to play me for just 10 points. Although this blocks the S hook pretty conclusively, my choice sets me up for major trouble on future turns, keeping the terrible LLOTT leave. And after Jackson's top scoring response of Puri drawing to within 6 points on the scoreboard after being down over 100, I'm very fortunate to draw 2 E's to give me some better vowel consonant balance. What makes this situation so brutal for me is that my best scoring play by a solid margin is jeté for 25, but that leaves the T of tie-in completely wide open. This means that after jeté, I will instantly lose to a surprisingly diverse array of bingos that Jackson can have, including backlots, blackout, outbacks, and outclass. Still, there isn't really an obviously better path for me here, so I play jeté and I hold my breath. After I track my tiles, I see Jackson doesn't have a playable bingo. However, I can't breathe a sigh of relief just yet, as his B, K, and S give him decent firepower. After such a grueling game trying to claw his way back from a big deficit, Jackson doesn't have a ton of time left on his clock, and without the ability to deeply calculate endgame sequences, he sees that his highest scoring move of balks for 32 would give back cost for 24, bringing him no closer to victory. So he instead plays Burks for 30, greatly reducing my potential counterplay. Still, in response to this, I make my relatively simple best play, blocks for 18 points, forcing Jackson to get 15 points from his remaining tiles if he wants to win. The best he can do is just 10 points for Cola, leading to a 426 to 421 victory for me. Initially, this endgame sequence is deemed to be optimal by Scrabble AI engines, but upon closer examination, Jackson actually does have a way to win in this endgame, and he even spotted the move he needed to play with his clock ticking down. The problem is that the full sequence is significantly longer than he has time to calculate. He needs to start by playing Yuck for 20, threatening Oblast for 11 if I somehow take a really low score. My primary issue here is that with only one vowel remaining on my rack, I may eventually be forced into situations where I have to play my consonants one at a time on this very closed board. The Scrabble engine Quackle still thinks I'm winning after Yuck, but after either of these two options, Jackson will counter with Slub for 24, and I will have 3 consonants on my rack without the ability to even play 2 of them at once, let alone all 3. The best I can do is to play for 4 points with Lore or Tor, and then 3 points with Olay, while Jackson will play OK for 6 and Lack for 8, which is only possible thanks to the L of Slub. After all of these moves, Jackson will wind up on top in this game 437 to 435, a 2-point victory for him. The Macondo engine figures this out when given the directive to look as deep as possible ahead, and it is actually so impressive that Jackson very nearly made this move under extreme duress on his clock. This victory kicked off a 6-game winning streak for me that saw me end up in first place in the standings, but Jackson would have the last laugh, defeating me in both rounds 30 and 31 to leapfrog me in the standings and finish 4th overall. Take a look at my full event scorecard and drop a comment with any games you'd like to see featured on the channel in a future video. As always, thanks for watching and see you next time.